Welcome to Cricbuzz Chatter, and what a day it was. I've been hugely privileged to have watched a lot of Indian cricket over the years. There are some wins that give you a little more satisfaction than others, and I thought this was that one simply because so many people contributed. But I'm not going to jump ahead of the script because there's so much to talk about this game, and I'm overjoyed once again to welcome Michael Vaughan on the program. So, Michael, my first question to you is, you watch a lot of cricket around the world. You watched Indian cricket very closely, and this was a fantastic performance. So what aspect of this performance stood out for you? Why do you think this Indian team is actually playing cricket the way it is?
Well, I have to say, I think we've all just kind of sat here at Lord's and we can't really believe what we've witnessed on day 5. When you think that we arrived this morning, England were favourites to win the Test match. And it was all about Rishabh Pant. Rishabh Pant, if he got 50 or 60, well, obviously India would come back into the game. Getting Rishabh Pant early, and then you're seeing Bumrah and Shami come together, who average 3 and 8. They can't bat. And then all of a sudden, within a few balls, we were looking out the commentary box window. We saw this field that was set, and we were like, "Oh, what's going on here?" The field was all set wide, all on the boundary. Joe Root, the captain, had more fielders on the boundary for Jasprit Bumrah than he had for Rishabh Pant. And it was almost as if then there was a momentum shift. There really was a twist in the game that I think Bumrah and Shami started to realise, started to play some nice shots. They had a bit of fortune. England bowled short, they bowled wide. They went for that intimidation. They got kind of into the verbals. At one stage, Mark Wood bowled 92 miles an hour to Jasprit Bumrah, who averages 3 in Test cricket with no slips. The tactical side from England in the morning session was all over the place, and really good teams, and India are a good team, and I don't think England are at this minute. They understand that moment. They understand that the mentality that you require to win that key moment. India had the mentality, had the courage, the spirit. England didn't have it. They didn't have the tactical nous. They didn't have the kind of the real inner belief that they could win the game. And seeing the Indian team walk down from the balcony to greet Bumrah and Shami at lunchtime in the long room, that sent a message, because India were in England's space. That's England's space, the long room at Lord's. It was a special day's play. I have to say the seam bowling attack that India have is exceptional. And I think in Virat Kohli, he's got this energy and this drive that it's almost a belief that he's given to the team that they think they can win from any position. The declaration, I'll ask you, Harsha. Did you think it was going to come? Did he get it absolutely spot on? Well, he did, because they won the game. What did you actually think of the declaration?
I'll come to that in a minute, because we discussed the declaration a lot. But since you brought it up, I'm watching Bumrah and Shami, Michael. I've watched Bumrah and Shami bat before. You have too. And I looked at the field and I thought, if I was Bumrah or Shami, I would say, "Excuse me, gentlemen, I want to take a photograph of this, because I don't think I'll have a field set like this for me again." Because I thought both of them in Sobers were batting together. And yeah, it was incredible. And there was a single on offer. I think I said on air that you might have singles on offer, like you're just going to the corner shop, pick up a newspaper, take as many as you want. So I found that difficult. I just wondered whether the defensive nature of England's thinking, maybe Root is not so confident of the team he has at his disposal. But coming to the declaration, I was absolutely certain he was going to declare. Because at that point, it was 260 of 64 overs, just about 4 runs and over. England were not going to go at 4 and over in these conditions against this attack. That's what you said at the end of day 4 too. You were a little concerned. So yeah, I thought it would. I thought they would declare. And then I'm thinking, what's happening? They played 9 balls, scored 12 runs. That was not the end of the world. Maybe there was a little personal landmark, but you don't play cricket for that. And then they spent 7-8 minutes changing a thigh pad. So I was a little perplexed. What I was afraid of at that point was whether the game would get to a stage where you'd say, if only I had those 4 overs. But you know what, Paulie said, and we talked to him a lot on Cricbuzz as well. He said, the only thing I can think of is he didn't want the openers to have 35-40 minutes in their mind getting ready. So just push them in. As it turned out, they picked up a couple of wickets too. So yeah, I must admit, it surprised me. But in the end, I mean, we weren't sure of Kohli's team. We weren't sure of Kohli's declaration, but you got to hand it to him. Both worked eventually. I still thought that England might have it in them. I know those two wickets rocked them early on, but Root came in, and I thought that he was playing a different game. It's like kids carry their own bat wherever they go. I thought Root was carrying his own surface wherever he went. I mean, those shots he was playing. But somewhere, Michael, and you've got to tell me this, how are England going to cope with this now? Because it's Root and There's nothing else. I mean, we had a cartoon when we were kids. When we were kids, the R.K. Lakshman, one of our celebrated cartoonists, had the entire team standing behind the wicketkeeper saying, why do you want to waste your time anyway? And I thought of that. Why doesn't Root just stand behind the wicketkeeper and say, I'll come out to bat? So, well, how are England going to sort this issue?
I think they'll be dejected, and I think it's going to take some coming back. When you arrive, you actually look at the whole Test match, day 1 to India, days 2, 3, and 4. England were exceptional. The way they got themselves back in the game, put India under a huge amount of pressure. Joe Root, the captain, obviously standing up with that incredible 180 not out. They bowled brilliantly yesterday, gave themselves a great chance of winning the game. And that key moment, that key session, they just didn't manage to win. It generally always comes down to day 5, Test cricket against good teams. And it's the belief element, that belief in the dressing room, where you look around, you look at the players that are in your team, and you know that they're going to deliver. You know that they're going to stand up. Well, England's players just didn't deliver. You're looking at the batting side once again. It's just been all about Joe Root. Johnny Bairstow played quite nicely in the first thing, but once again, it's all dependent on Joe Root. The batting today, the ball obviously did a little bit, but again, under pressure, it just does not stand up. There's only really Joe Root's technique and his mind that you kind of watch and go, yeah, he's got a game that is very controlled at this level. The rest of them, you just don't trust when the pressure's on. And India got a couple of DRSs. I mean, Virat Kohli, Harsha, can you believe it? He's back. They're not the worst in the world anymore. They're back.
And he said afterwards, I think he was asked that in the post-match conference as well. He was asked afterwards about those reviews. He went by instinct, and I think it just turned out. I thought both were good reviews, both were crucial reviews. That wicket of Bairstow just before tea, and I actually thought, I thought Robinson, look, he's not had a great Test match, even though he got the wickets in Nottingham. Not a great Test match. But I thought his batting side he was doing just enough with Butler. It had started to get to a stage where we're thinking, oops, Kohli, you dropped that catch of Butler. Is it going to come back to haunt you? So yeah, the DRS has worked. I guess when it works, when things start to work, everything works. Even the DRS works. So yeah, that was interesting. I think personally, even though Kohli didn't score a lot of runs, this was a big day for him as captain. He took some decisions. He decided, I'm going to play for 4 bowlers. It doesn't matter if they can't bat. He took a lot of those decisions. I think the one thing that he would please him the most is the way the 4 fast bowlers would. And I've often said this even on Cricbuzz, that you look at the captain before, MS Dhoni could write the book on playing with spin, on the kind of fields to set for spin. But MS never had these 4 fast bowlers. Or maybe Virat Kohli's personality has ensured that these bowlers are now coming through with a bit of help from the India A team. But I mean, you want a wicket, Bumrah's the leader of the attack. He's standing up. Shami is always there. Can you imagine Shami being a support bowler? But to me, just to see the progress of Mohammad Siraj, I know, Michael, you've talked about Siraj. We saw him in Australia, and just the large-heartedness, the energy. I just hope he stays grounded, that his work ethic remains what it is. But I think nothing would please Virat Kohli more than the statement made to the opposition. You give us whatever wickets you want. It doesn't matter, because now I've got 4 fast bowlers. We had great spinners in the past, but you couldn't win overseas. Now you've got that. Going to Leeds, if you say, give us those tracks, no problem. We'll bowl you out too. So that would have pleased him more than anything else. Right then, Michael, in the hot spot. Of all the things at the end of this Test match, what is Root thinking most about? Is he thinking, oops, shouldn't have put them in? Is he thinking, can I launch a nationwide hunt for the next batsman? Is he thinking that strategy? Did I get carried away with the sledging with Bumrah? Did I almost play into their hands? What do you think is going to bother him the most?
Well, I think it's the tactics. I think England got the tactics completely wrong. There's so many analysts around teams these days that I'm staggered, absolutely staggered that England went for these tactics where they spread out and they were just hoping that Jasprit Bumrah was going to hit a ball in the air. You've got one of the greatest of all time in Jimmy Anderson, just bowl the top of off stump. Tail enders back down the bottom because they can't play. They might have the odd shot, the ball might fly over the slip cord and every now and again, but the reason why they bat 9, 10 and 11 is because they can't play. They can't survive because their technique's not strong enough. The mind's not strong enough. Yeah, England just started to, panic. The short stuff, the Yorkers, they went wide. Loads of slow balls. It was a little bit of desperation, and a concern for me was that England ultimately didn't believe. They didn't believe that they could win the game because they panicked in terms of making sure that they had boundary riders to stop the boundary. And that'll hurt the England team. You know, how they kind of pick themselves up. They've got a breather. They've got an 8-day breather, which is exactly what they need. They need to get away from each other. Those batters need to work out a method of trying to score some runs and bat for a period of time. But I have to say, I think today's the day that India won the series. I'll say that now because I just think India have got a tremendous team. I think Ashwin will come back into the side, you would think. So they may be improved for the next Test match. And I just think they're a better team than England. And England have still got a chance. Obviously, they played well at times and they can always surprise you. But I just think today, that sessions 2 and 3 in particular, and the morning session where they got it completely wrong, it'll take a strong mentality to come back. And I'm just not sure whether this England Test match team has that at the minute. Right, Harsha, I'm going to put you in the hot spot. What do you think will please Virat Kohli the most?
I think he'd be overjoyed personally at the way Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul have played. Interesting choice, KL Rahul as the player of the match. So that would please him. I think there was far too much chatter around Rahane and Pujara, and some of it understandable. Your international players, when you're playing for your country, you invite the scrutiny. So I just think that dressing would be a little more settled because senior players played a part in taking the game into the 5th day, providing those runs as well. But one of the things that's hurt India a lot, I mean, I look back at 2018, I think 9, 10, 11 made 70 odd runs between them. But for every wicket, per wicket, the average difference between India and England was 10 runs. And we're getting to a situation where 9, 10, 11 came into bat. It didn't really matter who India were getting knocked over, not able to knock over the opposition. So one of the areas that India would have hoped they would get better was in knocking over the opposition, the lower order. We can't call them tail, got it politically correct. The opposition lower order, and ensuring that India's own lower order produced runs. Now, Ajinkya Rahane said at a press conference that their tail is working hard. The lower order is working hard in getting things right. So I think that would please him a lot. Yeah, so India win again at Lord's, Michael. India win again at Lord's. They won there in 86. They won there in 2014. Now they've won here again. There's 3 Test matches to go. It sets it up wonderfully for the series because it allows comebacks. So what are you looking forward to for the rest of the series?
Yeah, I mean, 2 great games. 2 games that I think if you look at them closely, India have been better. I think India would have won the first Test if the rain had not come on day 5. I said before the series started, India should win this series. They should. They've got a better team. England are missing Stuart Broad, Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer. They've got a batting lineup that's just not kind of operating as one. You've got players that are under serious threat for their places in the side. You've got a captain who's just continuously just holding them up, and it can't carry on. You can't be a batting team where you're just dependent on one player. It just doesn't operate in a way. And I've never seen a Test team really be successful with just one player being the only one really that can get the big score. So somehow England have got to find that belief in the batting over the next week or so. I don't know where that comes from. And it's going to be difficult because they're facing an Indian bowling attack that's high class. You know, the series. I think Mohammad Siraj is magnificent. You know what he brings. He must be a dream for Virat because he can just throw in the ball and he's got the skill of going either way. He charges in, he bowl bounces, he gets in the batters' faces. I think he is one that I think over the next few years we're going to see so much of, and he's going to bring so much joy around the world watching him because he's just got that buzz of energy. Exactly what you require in Test match cricket.
That's a big call, Michael, and I'm going to respect that call because it's coming from someone who's been captain in big series and who understands turning points. So that's a big call, but we'll wait and see, and we will have fun as usual when we meet again on Cricbuzz Chatter from Leeds. Your country is in the Yorkshire. It'll be cold, it'll be wet, but I'll be warm. Maybe you'll be wet, and I'll see you from Leeds. Thank you very much for joining us.